What is up, my fam? I am back once again today. Another video from 10 to Life, guys. She goes on and she actually talks about the title of the vehicle is New Details, 4 Students Murdered in Idaho. Who was the target? 10 to Life is who actually made this video. So we're actually going to go on. We're going to do some reactions to this video. We're going to give our input through the video. So we're going to pause a little bit. But afterwards, we'll stop and we'll talk about it a little bit, guys. Get ready for this. Anyways, first up, foremost, love yourself, like yourself, be nothing but yourself. Like, subscribe, channels highly appreciated. Without further ado, guys, let's jump right into the video.
New reports from the coroner talking about the actual, not just the cause of death, but the wounds themselves that were found on the bodies of these 4 young students. We're hearing about more details about the possible way that the perpetrator entered the house, the fighting that may have taken place, and the defensive wounds. A lot more information. So if you haven't been following this case closely and you're still getting caught up, pause this video and check out my previous video that I just put up this morning, because it'll bring you current as to where we are today before we go into all these updates. So pause this, go watch that, then come back here. But for those of you who have been following this case, you can of course pick it up right here and it'll make complete sense to you. So guys, let's get right into these updates.
10 to Life with Annie Elise starts right now.
We now know that the girls took an Uber home. When we last saw them on the footage, they went out of the line of vision from the camera, and we weren't sure if they would.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to point something out to you guys. See this guy right here? Pay attention to what this guy does. So these are the 2 girls right here. She's actually filming each other right here. So pay attention. And right here is actually the food truck that they stopped at. Now pay attention to these 2 girls walk away. This guy's hand gesture. And then this guy walks off this way like he's ticked off about something. But anyways, guys, watch the footage.
They walked home. We weren't sure how they got home, but it is confirmed by...
So they walk away because they said there was an Uber there. So she walks away filming her friend. Her friend runs. These are the 2 girls that got murdered. This girl and the other girl just ran. So she's right here. The guy's still right here that actually showed up with them, guys. So pay attention to what this guy does in just a second.
Kaylee's sister, that they took an Uber home.
So he throws up his hand and he's like, really? Now pay attention to his demeanor whenever he walks away.
They live approximately 1.5 miles away from that food truck. So if they had gone into the Uber and gone directly home, we also saw that hooded guy kind of splinter off and go the opposite direction behind the building, which doesn't necessarily mean much. It would relatively be a long walk, 1.5 miles to their place of residence if he was the one purposefully attacking them. So I just kind of want to walk through first the timeline that we now have a little bit more knowledge behind. So the girls take an Uber home and they arrive home approximately around 2 a.m. Then at approximately 2:26 a.m., Kaylee called Jack 6 times. Now, we don't know if any messages were left on those calls. We don't know what the context was behind any of those, but according to Kaylee's sister, she did attempt to call Jack 6 times, and this is at 2:26 a.m. Then we know, of course, according to law enforcement, that these 4 students were killed between 3 and 4 a.m. So only 30 minutes after those calls were made. Now let me just show you the interview of Kaylee's sister, because she is like the sleuth of all sleuths as far as trying to get answers for her sister, and she broke it all down this morning.
Olivia Gonzalez isn't waiting for police. She's tracking down her own leads to find her sister Kaylee's killer.
We're not getting any answers, and we're not going to settle for that.
Hi.
It was Olivia who found the potentially crucial video of her sister and Madison Mogan at a food truck just hours before they were murdered. She also tracked down their Uber driver.
I found neighbors' Ring camera footage so that I can verify that the Uber driver took her home.
She's also raising questions about why her sister called a young man named Jack multiple times the night she was slain.
At 2:26 a.m., Kaylee starts to call Jack. Kaylee calls Jack 6 times between 2:26 a.m. to 2:44 a.m.
Gosh, I give you a lot of credit. You're almost like a detective here, putting all the pieces.
I'm very sorry to meet you this way. What do you want people to know about your sister?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to know about Kaylee is she was a go-getter and she was an absolute fighter. And I want people to take this personally because she was everyone's daughter. You know, she's
And guys, let me throw in a little bit something here. So this girl right here, the one that got actually murdered, which is Kaylee. So she actually had a TikTok, guys. So she would go on TikTok and dance and do things, you know, that girls would do on TikTok, dance and pose and everything else. So there were some videos of her that actually showed the inside of her house, the sliding glass door, and even rooms, guys. So this girl right here, Kaylee, the one that was murdered, could the person have actually seen her TikTok videos and the layout of some of her house that they actually filmed in? Because she was not the only one that done TikToks. The friends actually did TikToks too, just like much college students or kids these days are doing. So should we not show as much of a house? Should we stay in one room whenever we do TikToks? Should we stay in the garage? I mean, these are some key factors that we should actually probably try to do whenever it comes to video, guys. Anyways, but then again, you go to Google Earth and Google Earth shows outside of your home. It's all kinds of stuff weird, guys, that I don't agree with, but who am I to say that? Anyways, let's jump right back into the video.
she's the neighbor, she's the friend. You know, she was the girl who made your coffee in the morning. And everyone should be taking this personally.
So we're taking it personally, and it doesn't make any sense, certainly not to you. In terms of what you understood about your sister's life, was there any threat that she had ever had? Was there anybody who was coming after her on social media? Did she have a past, a problem with a boyfriend or a friend? Anything to inform why somebody would do something so violent to her, her friend, her other roommate, and her boyfriend?
Absolutely. There's nothing. There's no boy problem. There's no threat. There's no high risk lifestyle that could have indicated this. It has taken all of us completely by shock.
Actually, she did report a stalker 2 months ago to one of her college teachers, and they turned it in. So could this be someone who actually seen it layouts of her house, came in and actually murdered them because some kind of jealousy problem, or just hatred, or just a murder altogether, guys? We know how serial killers work. They go from state to state and moving around to do what they need to do, but DNA is how they're found. So these people, these 4 students was brutally stabbed multiple times, guys. So is this something that is actually, is this killer going to be caught? Was it more than one person that stabbed 4 people? So there's 4 people in this house dead. So the other 2 roommates was gone. But come to find out, it was just announced that the 2 roommates, one of the other roommates' calls came from inside the house to 911 and said someone was unconscious, right? Well, you know they was more than unconscious because they're stabbed to death, guys. They said it was so bad on the news report, there was blood leaking through the foundation. Now, whoever called inside of this home, at 12 o'clock the following day, knew that they was more than unconscious. And a lot of people's looking at this and saying, the crime scene that these people seen, this person seen that called inside the house, where these 4 college students was brutally murdered, why did they say they're unconscious when there's blood everywhere, guys? And they said it was the worst crime scene these cops has ever seen, Moscow has ever seen. They said that. This is another one, guys, that doesn't make sense. The knife we used was a Rambo-style knife. And they said it was more than puncture wounds, guys. This is crazy. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
And we have absolutely no ideas. None.
Now, your frustration, other than just dealing with the tremendous loss for your family, is what in terms of the investigation?
I think this happened in a small town, and I absolutely understand that local authorities were probably overwhelmed, and I don't blame them at all. They did exactly what they should have done. But we're losing critical time, and I want more coverage. I want more done. I understand that we can't release information. It's an ongoing investigation. I don't ask for that. I don't want to impede on anything, but I want more people speaking out. And if that takes the police to push that agenda, that's fine. But unfortunately, I feel like it's been me and the families pushing that agenda, and that's been really difficult.
Now, when I did some digging, something that I found interesting, and this could just be an error in an article, who knows, maybe not, but we know according to Kaylee's sister, she was calling Jack multiple times. But also it says that Maddie was calling somebody named Jack. You can see in this article, it says at 2:26 a.m., Kaylee starts to call Jack. Kaylee calls Jack 6 times between 2:26 a.m. to 2:44 a.m. From 2:44 to 2:52, Maddie calls Jack 3 times. Then Kaylee makes a final call to him at 2:52 a.m., and they are both never heard from again. So who is this Jack guy, and why were they calling him so much? Now let's go back to the timeline. So we know they left the food truck, they took the Uber home, they arrive home around 2, the phone calls are happening around 2:25. Then the next thing we know, 30 minutes later, possibly an hour later, is when the murders occur. How did somebody get in? In the press conference, law enforcement said there were no signs of forced entry.
So it was cleared also today that they did not take an Uber. It was actually a private driver, guys. So whoever this private driver is going to know the real story. What was talked about in the car? Maybe Jack was actually mentioned in the car. Who exactly is Jack? We could speculate, we could put names together all day long, but that private driver heard conversation inside that car, guys. And who goes to say this private driver didn't follow him where they was going? So we need to find that private driver and actually ask him questions about conversation, about maybe hearing how many texts went off on their phone. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we have their phones, I'm sure. So I'm sure we've already skimmed through them too, which is probably they found more than what we know, guys. So all we got to do is just hang tight and the information will come out. But as far as killer goes, he's still not found, guys. And it's been what, 5 days now? 6 days? Something like that. And the second and third floor is actually where the girls was actually sleeping at. That was actually said again today, that finally they said the second and third floor was where the murders happened. But still, you have 4 people inside of a house brutally stabbed, and not one person even heard a thing. They only said that one person actually put up a fight because she had stab wounds in her hand. So that goes to tell me all these people was sleeping. They said the killer came through the 3rd floor sliding glass door. Again, we need cameras, guys. You know what? Even if you are hurt during the robbery, at least you have footage of whoever hurt you or killed somebody. That's all we would need. At least your family would have closure knowing who this person is, and they could put them behind bars for life. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
There were no signs that anything had been broken into, but according to sources, and I believe Xana's father, it is believed that they got through the sliding glass door. Apparently, there is a numeric code on the front door, and although many people do know the code to this house because apparently they'd have parties and, comings and goings of all of their friends, it's believed that this person entered through the sliding glass door. Now, this is key, and we'll talk about it more here as we continue. But the sliding glass door is on the 2nd level. This is a 3-story home. The 1st level is technically the basement / underground looking kind of area. It's the one sitting lower. Then you have the 2nd level, and then you have the 3rd level. So the sliding glass door is on the 2nd level. That would be the point of entry.
So let's pause this here for a minute, guys, because I'm actually going to explain something to you. So this is the 1st level right here. So there is a doorway that comes in here, and it has a code you have to put in to actually get into here. And then I'm sure you go through here, because in the TikTok videos, it shows stairs here. And I do believe it showed stairs here going up to the 3rd floor in her TikTok videos. Now, this was actually a party house as well. So do you realize how much DNA is inside this house right now? A lot of DNA is actually inside this house right now. So whenever they actually go and they test for DNA on these girls and one guy, Is there going to be extra DNA on them? Sure there is, because I'm sure people have slept in the same beds before, guys, and left behind DNA. It's a college house. So anyways, two of them was on the second floor, and two of them was actually on the third floor. So the killer supposedly came through this way, entered the back door, which, guys, put a broom handle on your back door sliding glass doors. On the other side, that way someone can't open it. Plain and simple, guys. Have a camera facing this way towards whoever enters the home. Have a camera facing the stairs this way. It's that simple, guys. $100 could have provided cameras for this home. But then again, they're party students, they're college students, so I'm sure they don't want cameras all over their house, guys. But anyways, back here, it looked like kind of like a wooded area, so whoever entered this way probably came through the wooded area as well. Anyways, guys, let's get right back to the video.
Now, one of the main things everybody's questioning is how could one single person kill 4 people with a knife without a gun? Now, and did they put up a fight? So Xana's dad, in his interview, said that she did in fact have defensive wounds and had bruising from the knife. She put up a fight. She fought this person.
Coronado says there's one thing the autopsy shows for certain. Xana, a strong-willed girl, fought her killer until the very end.
Bruises and just, maybe hurt by the knife or whatever.
She fought like hell. I do think it is possible for one person to kill 4 people with a knife based on the logistics of the house. And once again, we're going to get there soon. Just hang tight with me. I'm trying to walk you through the whole thing. Now, in a new report from a county coroner, she sheds more light on the actual wounds themselves. Not just the cause of death, not just the manner of death, but actually the wounds. And in this interview, she says that there were multiple stab wounds. She also says that with each individual, there was a lethal stab wound to the chest area. So multiple all over, and then a lethal one to the chest area, which many people were questioning if maybe their throats had been slashed or something to that degree, but that apparently is not the case.
And guys, I actually watched a video the other day of people that goes in criminology. My wife actually has a criminology background. She went to college for it. So she does got a master's, I do believe, in criminology. So I didn't ask her this question, but I am today. But I watched a video. And most killers that actually have sex problems, guys, will use the knife to actually, basically, as like a knife thrust is like something they live for sexually. So the professor actually went on to actually talk about this, and that is 100% true. No matter how sickening that is, guys, that is actual facts. So the knife they use, the thrust they use, is actually what they would actually get off on. Killers, serial murders. So yes, that is 100% true, guys. I had to share that with you guys because what she's about to say will make sense with all the rest I just said. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
And so, can you tell me if there were multiple stab wounds per victim, or were these sort of, individual lethal stab wounds that may have been less in number but more in lethality?
There were multiple stab wounds, yes, on them. So, and
were there? Go ahead.
And most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound. Yes.
Can you describe what that one might have been?
But they were to the fatal ones were to the chest area or the upper body area.
She also states that they were likely sleeping. When the reporter asks her, were they found in different rooms, she says she can't answer that because law enforcement hasn't released that information, but then she does confirm that they were found in their beds, which I think it's safe to assume based on that information that they were found on separate floors if they were found in their beds, because clearly they're probably not all, hopped in on one bed.
Were they found in separate areas of the house?
It was late at night or early in the morning, so it seems likely that maybe they were sleeping.
Were they found in separate areas of the house?
That hasn't been disclosed yet.
Can you tell me, when you say that they might have been sleeping, were they found in beds?
Yes.
She also says in this, which is one of the biggest things that caught my attention, is that this was a large knife and that these were not puncture wounds, meaning not normal small puncture wounds you would see with a regular sized knife. In my last video, we talked about this knife because there's been, attention brought saying they're on the hunt for a Rambo style knife. We were asking, could it have been a machete or something like that? So she says that it was a large style knife, not puncture wounds, which then takes you one step further into believing this probably is a much larger type of knife.
Were there, and I only ask this because it sometimes determines what kind of a crime this was, a crime of passion, a random crime, a fight, a struggle. Was there, were any of them slashed? Were any of their necks cut? Or were these all puncture wounds?
Well, it was a pretty large knife, so it's really hard to call them puncture wounds. And they were definitely stabbings. And it has to be somebody that's pretty angry in order to stab 4 people to death.
So let's talk about the logistics of that home. It's being reported that the 2 surviving roommates lived on the first floor, which is that not true basement floor, but the one beneath, the ground level. Then Ethan's parents allegedly confirmed that Ethan was on the second floor with his girlfriend, Xana, that's where they were staying. Then it's been reported that Kaylee's room was on the 3rd level. It hasn't been confirmed if Maddie's was as well, but I would assume because they were such best friends and like sisters growing up together, that they would either be in the same room or at least on the same level. Now, in my last video, I brought up the question of what could be the motive here. For such a targeted and gruesome attack, what could be the motive? From my previous video, you probably remember that I had called out the guy in the tan hat at the food truck. He seemed to be having a long conversation, about 8 or 9 minutes long, with the other young man who was wearing the hood and the leather jacket. Now, the man in the hood and the leather jacket is, according to, public opinion, one of the biggest suspects out there right now because he appeared to be with the girls. So my question in the last video was, okay, well, this guy in the tan hat or tan jacket seemed to be talking to him for a really long time. Has he come forward and said anything? Well, he has. He has posted on his TikTok that he did, in fact, talk to the police, that when he was talking to this guy in the hood, he was saying he was there just to make sure that the girls got home safely and that nothing seemed really askew to him. Now, in that video, I had mentioned that it appeared that Kaylee and Maddie were walking up to the food truck with this guy in the hoodie, that they were all together, that then the girls start ordering food. He hangs back. They're talking with people they know, that they recognize. They're on their phone. He's still hanging back, but that they all walked up together. And based on personal experience and just by seeing that footage, it's my belief that they were probably all 3 at the bar together. They perhaps invited him to come hang out after or come get food with them. So that's why they all walk up to the food truck together. They're ordering their food. He's waiting for them, thinking he's still going home with them or with one of them. Then at the end, we see they kind of ditch him in a way to where they're on their phone a lot. Then they go off in the other direction behind the truck, reportedly hopped into an Uber. We can see him gesture kind of like, what's going on? And then he goes the opposite direction. And again, this is just,
honestly, guys, it's almost like he said, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, hey, because they came with him and they left without him, guys. But you notice they both had their phones out as they was walking towards the car. One of them was actually recording. But the truck that sits there, guys, is a food truck, and it's well known on TikTok and Twitch, guys. So they had cameras at this food truck, caught the girls, caught the guy that came with them, but they leave without him. And it said they actually was at a bar before this, guys. But anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video and see what she has to say.
just my opinion based on what I'm observing, so let me know what you think. But I believe they arrived there at the food truck together. They had plans to go back to the house together, maybe after party, drink some more, hang out some more. Then as they're ordering their food, they're like, oh, we're going to ditch this guy, which, you know, embarrassingly, I've done this in the past myself. And then he gets mad and then whatever. We talk about motive a little bit. A lot of people, of course, think that this guy in the hood is suspect number one because he was with them. He was kind of lurking behind. He was the last person to be seen with the girls. Could it be him? And we talked about, could it be retaliation? Could he have been invited over with the girls, then they ditch him, he gets mad, and so he retaliates? Now, I'm not going to give names. I'm just going to give initials here because a lot of you guys who are on the Reddit threads and in the Facebook group already know the names, but we're not going to put it on here because there isn't any proof yet of anybody's involvement. But what I will say is this. There is a lot of suspicion that this person at the food truck is a young man by the name of Jack S. Now, I did some sleuthing of my own, and I found this Jack S person on social media, and there are some things I will say that give me a little bit of pause with this. First and foremost, he follows Maddie, and Maddie follows him back on social media, but he doesn't follow any of the other friends, and they don't follow him. In addition to that, his social media pictures look a lot like the person in the hood on the footage. On top of that, he has a lot of hunting photos on social media.
Okay, I'm going to pause right here, guys, because being a hunter myself has nothing to do with him being a killer, just because you hunt animals and you actually, well, that's how you was raised. So I'm actually going to rule that out altogether right now. But the knife she's about to show actually meets the criteria of the knife that the cops and the autopsy lady that done the autopsy actually is talking about. So let's go pay attention to the knife she's about to show.
With a very similar knife to the Rambo style knife that
and that is a Rambo style knife, guys. That's probably about an 8-inch blade right there on that knife. So, I mean, that's the style of knife that was used to stab the 4 college students that tragically lost their lives to a murderer. So, yes, very brutal, guys. And like I said, people serial killers use the knife as a thrust like they would in sex. It's kind of like a way of them getting off on something. And if you don't believe me, go actually read about it. There is actually professors that actually talk about that kind of stuff. So anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
Enforcement had called out. Now again, this could very, very, very well just all be coincidental, but this is something being talked about out there. And when I did my own digging, these are some of the things that I noticed about this particular person. And it's also being said, which this is just completely alleged, I have not seen any proof of this, that this person is also a student and their neighbors. Now, just this afternoon, it was released that the guy in the hoodie and the black jacket was identified, and police did question him. They have not officially ruled him out, but they did say that he is not a suspect or a person of interest at this time. I also want to be clear, there's a lot of misconception going out there right now from a few tweets. So there are 3 people with the letter J as their first name. There is Jack D, Jack S, and Jake. Jake is reportedly Maddie's boyfriend. I don't know where he was that night, what the story is, but he's not, as far as I know, he's not a suspect or anything like that, but Maddie's boyfriend's name is Jake. Jack D is who she was calling. Jack S is the person that people suspect is in that hooded jacket in the video, and also the hunter and everything else that I had mentioned. But let's talk again about motive, because the police said that this was a targeted attack, meaning that something at the crime scene had to give them the inclination that 1 or 2 of these people were the target, and that it wasn't just a random act against these 4 kids. So what was it that makes them believe this was targeted? We also are hearing, now as more details are coming to light, that this was a truly gruesome crime scene. We know there were multiple stab wounds, but apparently there were so many stab wounds that there was blood everywhere. And experts are saying that because of this, the suspect had to have left the house covered in blood, literally walking away from this home in blood, so that more than likely they left a bloody shoe print behind. Perhaps as they were using the knife, because there was so much blood and it was slippery, they could have cut themselves, so maybe their blood is behind at the crime scene and it's contaminated. So certainly there must be evidence outside of the home, wherever this person may be, that either gives some sort of trail of where the blood went, from the front door, from the dirt trail, wherever it was, because apparently this person would have been covered in this blood. And in another report that not many people are talking about right now that would go in line with this being targeted, Kaylee apparently confided in a student 2 months ago that she had a stalker. Now, we don't know the details of that at this point. It has just recently been reported. But if that is true, and if this was targeted like they're saying, could Kaylee have been the target all along?
People talk before this incident, and I talked to one student, and I agree with this. It was twice removed from the person.
See, and the backyard is wooded. It's totally wooded back here, guys. So that's where the killer, they said, came in and came through the back sliding glass windows. But they have sliding glass windows on the second and third floor, guys. But whenever if I looked at a layout of this home, guys, and it's weird because the killer about had to know what he was going after, guys. He just didn't walk past somebody and be like, hey, you know, I'm just gonna go in here and see what's going on and see who I could stab. That's not what happened, guys. When the killer entered this home, he knew exactly who was home, and he knew exactly what time to enter, and he knew exactly where to go. I hear all this talk about the killer walked by rooms and, you know, wanted them to move out of the way so afraid one would wake up and stuff. Guys, only one of the victims woke up and fought back. So that goes to tell me that it was quick, guys. However this killer walked in there with the attitude of knowing what he's going towards, he had a plan. And there's got to be, like I said, this house was a party house for frats to come at this house and party. Do you know how much DNA is left in this home? A lot of DNA is left in this home. So is this going to slow down the cops from getting DNA? Because you know the killer had to have something on him that he's left behind somewhere through the 4 stabbings. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
That said it, Kaylee, but Kaylee 2 months ago complained about a stalker.
And there may be something to that.
So let's fast forward for a second. The girls arrive home. The phone calls are made, and then the murderer approaches. He then gets to the house, opens the sliding glass door on the second level. He would see Ethan and Xana, who were not his targets, but now are getting in the way of him. They weren't the target, but they had to, you know, act and get rid of them so that they could get upstairs to Kaylee. They go upstairs to Kaylee. Maddie's also in the way, and then they attack Kaylee, the true target. Don't forget, there was also that other previous threat just a couple of months ago, and it was also about a young man with a knife. And this alert that went out says, on September 12th, 2022 at 8:05 p.m.
And I believe when the killer entered this house, he knew what he was after. He knew exactly what bedroom to go to on the second floor. He knew exactly what bedroom to go to on the third floor. He knew exactly who was in those bedrooms, guys. And he knew that the 2 people was gone that actually came home, and one of them called 911 from inside the house and said people was unconscious. The caller seen the kids, seen the stab wounds. They're more than unconscious. The killer knew what he was after and what he was doing. He did what he did and he left. That's what happened. So there's got to be something left behind. But all the people that's been in his house partying, you knew there was people getting sick because of drinking alcohol, doing drugs. I'm sure it was in there. It's a party house. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
The Moscow Police Department received a report that a group of students were walking between the steam plant parking lot and the student rec center on Paradise Path and were threatened by a person with a knife. No individual was harmed in this incident, but campus community members are advised to be cautious. The suspect is described as a white male, 18 to 22 years old, wearing all black clothing and a black baseball cap. The male was on a nondescript mountain bike, had a blue backpack, and was last seen heading east on Paradise Path. The suspect has not been identified and is still at large. And then it goes on to say, be vigilant, keep your doors locked, and here's the number to contact with any information. Now, these 2 incidents could certainly be unrelated. Absolutely. Or who knows, maybe they are related. But as information continues to come in, and as everybody tries to make sense of this, the family, the friends, the public who's so invested, what do you think? Do you think that this hooded guy is just, a red herring and that this is something completely different? Do you think that this was perhaps targeted and that's why and the reason that all 4 of them were unfortunately brutally murdered is because Ethan and Xana got in the way from being on that entry-level floor? What is it that you think is the truth here? And
look, guys, I don't think that they got in the way. The killer knew what he was coming for, guys. And for one person to stab all 4 victims, I honestly think there was someone else involved in this matter as well. I think there was at least 2 people involved, guys. It's the reason why none of them hurt each other. It's the reason why only one person fought back. There's 2 different floors. 2 different people covers 2 different floors, guys. It's all crazy stuff, guys. And this happens on the daily, guys. Anyways, I'm going to end the video right here, but I got one thing to say. Buy cameras and buy sensors for your doors, guys. It will protect you guys and our children, guys. I have a 3-year-old and I have a 19-year-old. That's all. $100 will protect our children. Anyways, guys, love yourself, like yourself, be nothing but yourself. Like and subscribe to the channel. It's highly appreciated. Without further ado, guys, your boy Deuce is out. Thank you, guys.